Would you agree that farmers taking part in today's demonstrations may have stepped outside the law by blocking these roads?
Well, you see, there's one law for farmers and one law for the industrial worker who is protected by the law when he disrupts the nation's economy.
But would you agree that they may have stepped outside the law?
Possibly.
I wish you could swim like dolphins can swim.
The Limerick demonstration began with a token sale of farm produce to show the prices which farmers are in fact getting for their goods. Items such as carrots sold for a penny a dozen.
We can beat them forever and ever. Oh, we can be heroes just for one day.
You see those pair of shoes and that little fella? That's one lamb. And that's not the profit, that's the cost of one lamb.
There's no point in me marching up and down outside my farm gate with a placard saying I'm on strike till I get 90 pence. I have to come here.
It's day 10 here on the Farmer Blockade, and the mood very tense as people wait nervously for news from the High Court.
Jerry Maguire, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Joe. How are you?
What's happened now, Jerry?
Well, the injunction has been lifted completely. ISA is completely free now, and it would appear also that the farmers are free to pick it if they so wish.
So the injunction is now gone, which will be incredibly good news for all the farmers listening at the gates around the country.
It's up to the individual to fight for their own rights, legally, without breaking any laws. It's up to every individual. Like, we can't be hiding behind an association or a name. In the end result, it's grassroots people that are here today.
There's a tremendous spirit of unity among all of these people here today, and there has been every other day that I've been here. There's a feeling of comradeship, of family almost. Everybody knows everybody else here.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the programme. Well, after all of that, it's business as usual back at the country's meat plants as the farmer blockades come to an end. Later, we look at the implications of the protest for farming and rural Ireland, and we talk to the spiritual leader of Irish farmers, the former president of the IFA, Tom Parlin. There's also a report from Wexford on a unique fruit farm. But we begin on a farm in County Laois, where instead of animals for food and profit, the farm is a centre for healing. Ronan Clark now reports.
One of the great things about farming is how hands-on the whole experience is. There are so many ways in which you can reach out and touch it, and ways which we're only beginning to discover into the lives of children. Can I have an apple?
No, that's not for you.
Is it not? But I'm not going to eat it.
No, you're not allowed.
Who's allowed? Who's allowed? Who'll I give these to?
The horse.
Okay, I'll give it to the horse.
I was working in residential care in Dublin, and I brought down some of the children that I was working with down to the farm at the weekends, and we discovered afterwards that there seemed to be a great sense of, I suppose, more calmness and in general kind of better behaved. So we thought maybe there was something in that, and sort of, you know, I suppose having contact with animals and farm life. So I began to do a bit of research, and we got a grant from the County Enterprise Board to do a feasibility study, which we carried out over about a year and a half to discover that this is well-known practice in lots of other countries, and I suppose used here, but maybe not this type of application, but lots of other applications of animal-assisted therapy and pet companions and that sort of thing.
First of
of all, if all the hens are around, I'm looking for 4 hens and a rooster and a black hen.
Margaret Fingleton and her husband Kevin McWay run Finway Farm, an innovative farm enterprise outside Abbeyleix. It's a place where people with physical, emotional and psychological needs can feel more at ease with their surroundings through contact with animals.
Well, it's not a talking sort of therapy. We tend to let it happen, and many of the children will talk away to the animals, and we really have very little to do. And they tend to take on that. We would have children who get into the rabbit house and would talk away. Some of them actually fell asleep in there, and just have that closeness. But there's no pressure on anybody to talk or to answer questions or ask questions or whatever. We've had to cater for maybe larger groups, and we went looking one day for a child that was missing for a while, and we discovered her in the hen house, chatting away to the hens. And we found that the hens, in fact, are one of the animals that children tend to do a lot of talking to, and probably because they chatter away with their beaks themselves, that they see that and they begin to sort of interact back. Many children can be found out, you know, maybe sitting in the hay with a pup or whatever, so they won't travel too far and they're safe. We foster pups, and the children who live out of home have related that to their own circumstances and would often ask questions about, do you love your own dog more than you love these pups, and how are you going to feel when the pups go back, and will you keep in touch with them, and maybe relating to their own lives and their own circumstances about, you know, their separation. So those have been some of the incidences, you know, that we've had that I suppose would surprise you. But I think in general, every day really is a surprise for us.
Derek McLean is one of a number of children who visits the farm regularly. Each time it's a chance to catch up with old friends, and as I was a new visitor to the farm, he introduced me to some of them. What's this guy's name here that's beside us?
The donkey.
Yeah.
Russell.
Russell the donkey?
Yeah, Russell is his name.
And what do you think of him?
I think he's gorgeous. Gorgeous donkey. I think Sinead's the best dog ever.
What makes her the best dog ever?
She plays around with the other dog.
And she likes you?
Yeah, she does.
When Derek was 2, up until he was 2, he seemed to be fine. But when he was 2, we realised that there was something wasn't quite right. He didn't talk. He was in a world of his own. And we went to various people with him. And I have to say that speech therapy, the speech therapists, Margaret and Emma, were absolutely brilliant with him. And they taught us how to get down to his level and speak to him. And from then on, we realised how to handle him, and if it got disruptive, how to try and calm him down. And that's where the animals came in. We discovered that the animals calmed him down, and from then on, we just had animals. I think it's his whole behaviour around them. He's in control, I think, and that's a big thing for him. He can be very upset, things can upset him very easily, but if he's in control of the situation, which he is with the animals, and they don't talk back to him, or they don't upset him, and he's able to talk to them at his own level. I think that's what it is. He's down at their level and they're at his level as well.
And when he comes home, I suppose he must be full of stories.
Full of stories. Some of them we believe and some of them we don't.
The therapeutic farm has not only got financial support from Laois Leader and the County Enterprise Board, there has been huge local support from schools and youth centres in the area. As a unique development, it's also attracting others who are working with children, like Teresa Brown.
I think a lot of young people at the moment find it difficult for various reasons. You know, and to see them then with animals initiate the trust and even kind of feel that sense of responsibility and having, you know, responsibility for making sure their feeding time is, you know, all those issues around the general care of the animals. And the Phoebe Farm is interesting at the moment because they're just setting up different programs for different children. And that's very, very important for me as well, that not all children have the same needs, and that the programs can be tailored to meet the needs of specific children and families. You know, and parents too can get support out here through these programs.
The therapeutic farm is just part of a dairy and beef enterprise run by Margaret and Kevin. Often Kevin takes the children to share a first-hand experience of daily farm life, such as milking the cows.
Well, having grown up on a farm, I found that I found I had a wonderful experience, and one I wouldn't like to change as childhood, and I'd like to share it with others.
Okay, you know what this is for, don't you? Put your fingers in.
The milking is one of the most therapeutic things that happens on the farm. It's not every person that comes onto the farm takes to it naturally. Some people don't like it, but most kids love it. And it's very fast in that the milk is there, you can taste it within seconds of starting the milk. And most of them mightn't have a long concentration span. So it's just very important in that aspect. And also, all the senses are all there. You can see the cows being milked, you can touch the cows, you can touch the milk. You can hear it, the milk machine running, and you can also taste it. So the 5 senses are all there very fast.
It's a huge satisfaction for us. It's almost the ultimate in terms of many farmers can, if you ask a farmer how to explain the love of the land, it's usually not the hours that they put in or the money that they make out of it, but it's the love of the land and love of the animals. And to see that through the eyes of a child who maybe doesn't normally get the opportunity to interact, that is really valuable for us.
Now that's what I call a farm with a difference, and the children were having a whale of a time. Meanwhile, on the Ballycross farm in County Wexford, where they've grown apples for the fresh market for years, the family have taken the business that one step further and are producing a top quality consumer product for the retail shelves. David Cavan has had a taste.
Down through the years, Irish apple growers have taken a hammering with adverse weather conditions and cheaper imports from better climates. But some dedicated growers along the east coast of Ireland are helping the Irish apple make a comeback.
My dad planted about 6 acres here in 1972, and I've been here since 1987.
How long would your apple growing season be, or your picking season be?
In mid-August we usually start picking the earliest varieties, and then continue picking until mid-November or so. We're growing about 6 or 7 different varieties, main crop varieties, starting with a variety called Discovery, which is picked in August, and this variety here is a variety called Jonago Red, which should be ripe in about 10 days' time.
Right. And do you use the same varieties then for juicing as you do for eating apples?
Yes, we do, and some of the varieties are used specifically for the juice as well.
When selecting apples for retail at the farm shop or in the supermarkets, some fruit gets rejected, often because they're either bigger or smaller than the average. But at Ballycross Farm, using these perfectly good fruit for juicing has opened up a whole new market in a business they know well.
The more products, I guess, we can produce, the better for the farm. But I guess it was just that, you know, not to waste anything. There were smaller apples that couldn't go anywhere, probably went just to feeding animals, that it was another option, and apple juice seemed a good idea.
Well, firstly, the apple is pulped through a grinder into a fairly fine pulp, and from there it is put into a press, and the juice is basically just pressed out of it. We add a little bit of vitamin C. The vitamin C stops the juice from turning brown, but apart from that, there's nothing added.
Irish apple farmers have been all but squeezed out of the fruit market by foreign imports. But by putting Ballycross juice on the supermarket shelves all year round, the family are making a splash in a competitive market and keeping Irish products on tables 12 months of the year.
Their apples are orchard ripened, and when you look at imported apples, they are picked before they were ripe, and then they're ripened when they come in the boxes or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think you're probably always trying to displace foreign products. I mean, generally they're cheaper, probably less quality, so it's a hard job, I guess, trying to, you know, get in there with something that probably costs more to produce. I mean, the idea, like with the apple juice, obviously the fresh is here when we have the apples. The pasteurized, I think, is to kind of carry through the name that once it goes off the shelves at the end of the season, there is a product there that they can relate to it.
Well, there was always been a huge demand for their fresh, unpasteurized apple juice. What Christian introduced last year, and he came and talked to us about it, was his varietal apple juice. Now, you can buy a Cabernet Sauvignon or you can buy a lovely Merlot, or you can buy a lovely wine like that, and all the lovely grape varieties that you have. And look at all the apples that we have on our doorstep, and all we ever had was apple juice. We never had a Bramble apple juice or an Elstar apple juice or a Jana Gold apple juice. And now you can come in and say, what do I fancy today? I fancy a nice drop of Jana Gold.
Well, I'm told there was juice of a more stronger variety available on some of the beef blockades. Well, at least that's how the story goes. But did you ever wonder how farmers spent their time on those very blockades? The daytime hours were okay, but what about the long nights?
Pat O'Toole is a livestock and tillage farmer near Bunclody in County Wexford. Normally, feeding the cattle is his last task of the day, but tonight he has other duties to attend to.
We've invested heavily in cattle production over the last 5 years, and we're locked into that system. We know there's enough money there to give me a reasonable living out of cattle farming, and unless I get it, I'm staying on the picket. It's not going to last forever. It is an inconvenience, but it's a small price to pay if we can get the factories to come to the table.
Pat can spend anywhere from 4 to 8 hours on the picket line, like any one of the thousands of farmers that have congregated outside the gates of Slaney Meats and the other meat plants around the country over the previous 9 days. Young and old, dairy, tillage, sheep and beef farmers stand side by side.
I came back at 11:30 till 1:30 today, and I came back here tonight 9 o'clock, and I'm still here, and it's 12:05 in the morning.
And if you have to be here again tomorrow, will you be here again?
Oh, we'll be here tomorrow.
I'm here to support them again. The men have been out every night and every day doing their shifts and their stints, and the women felt that they should come out as well.
It was great to see so many people turn out. There was loads of sambos going around and soup and tea and everything, and it was a great atmosphere here really, you know, and great goodwill among all people.
What you've seen here this evening is spontaneous. It's hard to believe, but it is spontaneous. People just started arriving on Monday night in ones and twos until there were hundreds of people here, and they're not going away until we've got a result. And we've sat here around these fires for the last 10 nights, and we've discussed this from every angle, and we cannot see any other way.
In the on-site caravan, or the snug as it's been christened, we spoke to two men who have seen many changes in farming over the years.
When the pressure came on IFA that they had to resign, I think it united the farmers more. As I honestly think, I think if farmers had no organisation at the moment, they're still together. No, that's my...
Giving you an example, last night we had a meeting, a parish meeting, just to organise this, and I don't think there was any farmer in the parish missing, and there was a lot of others in it as well, and they are all coming here to do the rota from 12 o'clock tonight until 4 in the morning. When people are on protest here, someone else has to stand in for them back home for to do the work for feeding cattle and milking, and lucky enough there's not too much milking this time of year, but someone stands in for everyone that's out. It's a wholehearted thing.
In the beginning it looked very serious for us, but at the moment we have such build up of people behind us that we're not worried.
One great thing that has come out of it is that the farming community have found their voices again, and they stood up on their feet and they said, we're here, we're not going to go away, and we demand justice.
Negotiations between the IFA and the meat processors are continuing at the Department of Agriculture in Dublin with the aim of ending...
Some nights it's quiet. It's hard to stay awake. Conversation can ebb and flow, and you find yourself drifting off to sleep and coming back.
13 minutes past 8, still to come on Morning Ireland. Talks on beef prices have broken up without agreement.
When this ends, that's the beginning. This is the beginning of the recovery of the beef industry. Is it fair that it's possible for someone to dominate the beef industry at both factory and cattle level. I think that farmers should be allowed to dominate their own side of the industry.
This dispute has done more than attempt to give improved prices to farmers. It has raised the spirits and boosted the morale of a community which has been pushed to its limits. After a long night on the picket line, life continues on the farm, and at 8:30 Pat heads back home in time to let Sandra off to work.
Farmers are continually, people say, complaining, but that's their only way they can do it. They cannot go and picket their premises. Now, everybody would laugh if they saw Pat at the head of the lane with a picket. You know, it would mean nothing to them. So I agree. I think this is, if you like, the last stand for farmers. It was the only way that they could get a fair price for the cattle and to get the government to sit up and to say, gosh, there's something going on here. And I'll go down and I'll make sandwiches for him and I'll stand behind him the whole way. And I think every other farmer's wife in the country will too, behind their husbands. And I'll do it with a few sleepless nights if needs be.
And as you know, there was good news from Slaney with the blockades lifted and farmers getting a deal on cattle prices. And that's been the picture right around the country, Tom Parlin. As we speak, it's business as usual.
Yeah, I think we're 99% back in business by lunchtime. You know, very positive deals have been done. And I think it's good that it's over. It's taken 14 days, but it has worked out very well.
How difficult were things during those 14 days?
Well, I mean, the negotiations initially were extremely difficult, particularly at national level. And I think the breakthrough certainly was setting up local negotiations where local farmers and local IFA and local customers went in and dealt with their local management. And I think that certainly was a breakthrough, and I think that's something that's going to be very, very important in the future in terms of determining the price of beef for farmers.
I'm curious about how you're going to get the price paid. It's one thing doing a deal. How are you going to be sure it happens at ground level?
Well, I think in terms of the whole transparency, but even the government made a decision to set up a whole price transparency mechanism. The department have agreed that from now on, the following week, they will publish the actual prices paid by individual plants. So we will know what Slaney paid for the different grades of cattle and what Liffey paid and what AIBP paid and so on. And that's going to be of major benefit to farmers when they measure that against their own prices.
How significant has the last fortnight been for farming, for rural Ireland?
I think it's been a watershed for farming politics and for individual farmers. It's given a power now, I think, to farmers that they never felt that they possessed. If they come together both politically and individually in groups in terms of seeking out a fair price, I think there's major scope to improve our situation into the future.
And that must be great for you as, well, you're not the leader, you're the spiritual leader of farmers.
No, it has been a boost, I think, for IFA. A lot of work has been done over the last number of years by IFA people without a result, and I think this thing has brought things to a head. But we still have the lowest beef price in Europe, and I think we have a lot of work to do, and I think it's only the beginning, I would say.
How do you feel now? Because you have been called many things, including, as I called you, the spiritual leader, Harlan Brando. A little bit of fun in there somewhere, but it was a serious 2 weeks.
Oh, it was deadly serious, and I think when Justice O'Donovan imposed a £500,000 fine per day, that was certainly a serious day, and it did threaten the whole future of IFA.
But you'll be back, Tom. I will be calling you IFA leader again.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Well, that's all for this week, and next week we hope not to mention beef at all on the programme. Instead, I'll be set dancing at the Crossroads. Now, that is one to watch out for. So until then, from all of us, a very goodbye.
Secretary, this day, 2 months hence,